And once again, this is our lesson for ICT. And for those who are not doing ICT, you'll be waiting a little to see if the WhatsApp group will be updated with the link that has some math. But for what I know, this is going to be for ICT up to 4 p.m. I want to welcome you again for those who have joined in. And our topic this afternoon will be talking about data communication and networking, a topic that comes after we taught internet or maybe before internet is taught, depending on how your school prepares the particular curriculum you're going to be using. So basing on the previous assessment here when we introduced our first lesson, most people wanted to talk about data communication as per their coverage in their respective schools. Unfortunately, we had internet previous lesson. So what we're going to do, we are going to move very fast about data communication for schools that have not studied data communication. I want to welcome you again. And my name is Masabe Risa. I work with the Holistic Learning Platform and I teach ICT and mathematics at Bali Secondary School. So we will be setting off as we interact a little. So if there is any question, are you prepared? You can always put up the hand and ask. If there is no question, then we always proceed. Now, we are talking about data communication and networking. This is another area that any examiner will always pick interest in. Specifically, they give you 2 questions from this area, and internet also gives you 2 questions from that. Internet gives you 3 questions from that area. So if you can master this, then master the other side, you have about 5 questions to answer. Yeah, 5 questions times 5, that is about 25 marks. And yeah, this afternoon we'll be talking about data communication. If there is any question, put up your hand and ask before we can proceed. Okay, I don't see any hand up. I think we'll have to proceed. When we talk about data communication, what comes into your mind? These are 2 English words combined. The first word is data, and data is related to computer, but communication is purely an English word. Any suggestions to what this means? When you see data and communication, is there any suggestion on what comes to your mind? You can either type it in the chat or you can have it spoken loudly to the whole class by putting up your hand. When we talk about data communication, what comes to your mind? Mm. I want to find out if anyone here knows what data communication means. If they talk about data communication, or if you find someone talking about data communication, what do you think it means? Before I can display what I have prepared this afternoon.
Trying. I'm trying.
Yes, please, you can try.
Uh, Data communication, this is the way how computers transmit signals from one place to another. That one.
That's your name again?
Senyange.
Yes. I beg your pardon? How computers
Transmit signals from one place to another.
transmitting signals from one place to another. Yes, there are some keywords that are missing. Otherwise, that is the best concept you would write if in case they have captured it right. But for purposes of passing, there are some that are missing. Anyone who can spice that up? Thank you, Senyange. Transfer of data. Mr. Bella is saying transfer of data. Transfer of data. Yeah, you can write directly in the chat, or you can open up your microphone and tell us what you think when it comes to data communication. Otherwise, we've been told by Senyange that it involves transferring of signals from one place to another. And technically, I was advising him that there are some two technical words or more than two that are missing, which examiners will always look for if you're to get a mark. Normally, for data communication, there are always 2 marks. And maybe what I can say here is that when you say from one place to another, it doesn't bring out the computer bit of it. You're almost defining communication in English, but also in English, it may not bring out if you say from one place to another. Can someone relate one place to another using two computers? The senior fives, no one is trying, even when this boy has tried to give us an idea.
I think we should include in my statement. I should include in computers connection between one or two more computers.
I beg your pardon, put it better and listen.
I was saying that in my definition, in my statement, I should include in at last that the transfer of signals from one computer to another computer.
Yeah, at least now that one comes up. Okay, you define it once again with those two technical words.
It refers to the transfer of signals from one computer to another computer.
Transfer of signals from one computer to another computer. At least now that one is fairly good. Provided there is information that you're sending from one computer to another, and that computer is able to also send back this other side, and we shall be able to say that there is what we call data communication. And for data communication to take place, there must be the information you must send. For example, the information here could be you want to say good morning. You want to say good morning. There are so many ways you can say good morning. There are so many forms of technology that you can use to say good morning. And the word good morning is the message that you want to communicate between more than one or two computers. And this is the one we refer to as the message. So provided it is sent from one computer to the other one, then the other computer receives, this one will be called the sender and will always accept that there is some communication between those two devices, and that is what we refer to as data communication. So for purposes of writing, and if you have to write it anyway, the definition that is close to what Young had given us is here, and you can always beef it up if it is not having computer related terms. Like yeah, said when he said from moving from one place to another, that one totally didn't have any computer related terms. But when you look at this, there is what we call data signal, and that is computer related, but also something very important, something that is very key in this definition is the word network. You cannot communicate from one computer to another without what we call a network. And yeah, information may not be received on computer A, or computer B cannot send back information this other side. So data communication refers to the process of transmitting data signals from one point to another through a network. And this point can be a computer. And I wanted to also discourage saying from one computer to another. Sometimes it may not be a computer. Just imagining if at all, for those who love music, there is a speaker here. Assume this is a speaker. Assume that is a speaker, and you have your maybe you have your DVD player here or an amplifier. Let's call it MP3 player. So you want a song to play from this MP3, and we hear it from this speaker. Now, the definition, when you say from one computer to another, it will remove out such an example. And yet, an MP3 is a computer and this is an hardware, but there is data moving from this point to this other side through a network that has been called maybe a banana pin or maybe an audio pin that is able to play music this other side. So be very careful when you're talking about this point from one point to another. What is key is the word network must appear, but also data signals, because you cannot send a physical thing. For example, if you want to play some song, maybe from the Good Life in your MP3, and you want to play it using that speaker, you cannot send whistle from this one point to another. It must be their voices, their songs in form of signals transmitted. You want to send a document to a friend, maybe a test or a revision notes. You cannot carry a document and pass it through MTN and it reaches. So you must convert your document into what we call data signals for them to be able to be transferred from one point to another. So very important for you to note that the definition should not overlimit you. Is there any question as per the definition of data communication is concerned, or any supplement? I'm wondering if people are able to. Do you people know how to put up the hand here? I could be here when I might need to take you through how they raise it. So it's very important in class at least to say something, even if you say you wanted to confirm that I have understood. It's very key. There should be always communication flow, this side, that side, then back this other side. So the definition is over there, and if there is any supplement, let me know. If there is none, then see. All right. So when we talk about data communication, in all aspects related to data communication, now there is something called computer networking. And when you consider all the technologies that have come up, then this one is the best definition for what data communication means. There is something we are going to talk about called computer networking, and it is the best form of how a person can communicate from one computer to another. And when we talk about data communication, then we can't leave computer networking behind. So we'll proceed and talk about the elements of data communication. Elements of data communication. This is a question that can give you about 5 marks. If it is asked in any exam, they will never ask you to list 2 or 1 item or component of data communication. They will always ask you to list about 4 or 5. So these components are very famous. They are very known to all of us. I want to see in the chat some of these components or elements of data communication. Or you can put up the hand and tell us what you think is the best example of data communication. And for you to understand these elements, there is always this diagram that is always drawn. They will draw a diagram like this. There is one computer here. Assume that is a computer. There is another computer here. Assume this is A. This is computer B. Computer A, and that is computer B. So is able to send the information from one place from one point to this. So once a computer is able to move information once information is able to be moved from computer A to computer B, then there will be called data communication. And what I've listed here are some of the elements of data communication. The first element of data communication is here. The second element is here. And when they talk about elements, they are ideally talking in other subjects, the parts of something. This is an element, number 3. Then there is the 4th one and the 5th one. Unfortunately, you may not see it. The 4th one is not visible here. Then the 5th one is also not visible here. But at least you should be able to identify at least 2 of those elements for you to confirm that you know the sending of messages from one place to another. There is transfer of data as one of the elements. Mr. Bella. Let me put them down here. Transfer of data as one of the elements. The elements, one person is saying transfer of data. Then another person says, Peter saying protocol, the protocols. Protocols. Here Peter says there is something called the media. I'm waiting for the next one. Sorry, I wrote transform medium, but I think this was the definition from Christabel. And her answer is actually not transform data, but her answer is the sender. Sender. Yeah, thank you, Christabel. Any other person, any other suggestion? We've seen sender, we've seen protocols, we've seen its protocol. Protocol according to what Peter has written. Any other idea? I want people to explain their elements. I don't know whether we should start with Christabella or we start with Peter to explain his two. Nakakande?
Message.
The message, yes. The message, sometimes this message is also called the information. Can we get the next one? We have any other? Okay, can people try to explain their points? Supposing they asked you to explain the components of data communication, what would your answer look like? Senyang Job says, said the receiver. Senyang says the receiver. Yeah, I saw some hand up, or maybe the answer has been already said. That answer was from Irene. I mean, the hand was from Irene. Can you please bring back your hand? Noise as one of the elements. It was Mayanja. Mayanja says noise as one of the elements. I've never heard of noise as one of the elements, but we will wait for him to explain. All right, let's start with Mayanja to explain his point. Explain noise in terms of data communication as one of the components. Then we shall get back to those other people to say something about what they have said. Abdallah?
Yes, thanks, teacher. My name is Manager Abdallah from Smakol. According to me, noise is any interference that can affect data transmission quality, hence becoming the element.
Hence becoming the element. Right, yeah. Yes, it can really affect data transmission, but when we talk about elements, we talk about almost items that aid data communication from one place to another. So if noise is obstructing, then it is not one of the elements, because here we are looking at the things that can help data communication to be a success. So noise, how about data? Mayanja still adds data. I think data, I don't know which data you're talking about, but I think data can be stroked here. Information stroke data. If you're talking about data that we know in the computer, not MBs of MTN and Airtel. So yeah, it can be stroked. Which data? Abdallah, which data are you talking about? The one of MTN?
No, sir, that one, the information.
Oh, so that one can fall under messages. All right, can we hear from Christabel? Are you able to talk to us? Talk about the sender as one of the elements. Then we'll get to Peter. Christabel, are you there?
Yes, teacher.
Can proceed.
Okay. My name is Christabel Nkuse. Okay, a send as a component of data communication is like in this case, let me use the person who sends the data signals to the receiver through the medium of data
Now,
communication.
when you talk about, before you even finish, Christabel, it's when we are defining in computer, the examiner's array is very sensitive, not only in computer, but in any other subject. The word is sender, and your definition is containing sender as if more than once. So you would have not performed so well. Though the point is very, very well received, but if you can formulate it again and remove the word sender from your definition.
Okay. The sender is the person who transfers the data to the receiver through a medium of data communication.
Who transfers? Well, the word transfer is at least fair than when you say sends, but the term is supposed to be initiates. The person who initiates, or the person who starts the conversation, or who starts the transfer or something like that. Avoid using the word sender, or avoid using any term to define the term that has asked. Otherwise, that was a very good submission. Can we hear from this was who? Peter, are you able to talk to us?
Yes, sir.
Protocol, start from the protocol.
The name is Chiberu Peter, and protocol refers to the set of rules that govern data transmission from the sender to the receiver.
All right, can you do the Christabel way? She gave us a real life example when she talked about a person. What comes to your mind when you hear those rules? Is there any example you can give us?
Yes, I can give an example of we've heard of emails, right? There is a protocol that governs like that process of sending emails from one person to another. And I can give an example of simple mail transfer protocol. Yeah, it is the protocol that is responsible for the transmission of mails, like from the sender to the receiver. I don't know if I'm clear.
I think that one is okay, though it's very, very technical. If a person is hearing about the email for the first time, don't you think you'd have scared them away already by talking about protocols? However, that is a good submission, of course, about the protocol. I expected you to talk about rules governing the sending and receiving of messages in the simplest way without using the protocols themselves. For example, when you're using WhatsApp, I think there is one rule that WhatsApp has put, and once you try to violate it, they cannot allow it. When you're using WhatsApp as a medium to send messages, there is something that is to do with view once. I think when you send someone a photo, a voice note, but you want them to hear it only once. Yeah, that is one of the protocols, the rules that they have put in their WhatsApp to govern communication between two or more than one person. And the other thing is that you cannot take a screenshot, I think, of mobile money transaction. For those who have ever used mobile money, try if you're sending money to someone to take a screenshot, it won't allow. If you're using my MTN app, I don't know if you know that there are some apps that cannot allow you to take screenshots of what is displayed on the screen. My MTN app, I think it's not my MTN app, it's My Momo, it's a Momo app. If you can download Momo app, try to log in and try to take a screenshot. It's one of the protocol. And the protocol is simple. When you have been invited for a workshop, or maybe you've been given, you've always heard people say, and protocols observed. So they cannot break down the protocol something. So every time they talk of the protocol, I think it should be looked at into, it should be looked into like an English word. Now, the simple mail transfer protocol, these are some examples that will come in later when we go into the very technical thing. But when you're sending a message from one place to another, there must be protocols you must follow. And like Peter has told us, when you're using the email services, there is what we call SM as a simple mail transfer protocol that must be followed. Not only that, there are several of them, and that is just one example that we'll be looking at as we proceed. Then the medium, and this was from Peter. I just want someone else to talk about the medium, and not now Peter himself. Medium is number 3 on this sketch that I have put here. Anyone who can talk about a medium and relate it so well for a layman to understand what is a medium. Yes, Jojo?
Medium refers to a pathway through which messages are transmitted from the sender to the receiver.
Yeah, a pathway. I think that is a very good word, a pathway. And we are waiting for the example.
We have physical media and wireless media. Physical media, we have fiber optic cables. Then wireless media, we have microwaves.
We have the physical, we have the wireless one, and we have also talked about very technical statements there. You say the physical, you can look at what?
Cables, like the fiber optic cable, the twisted pair cable, the
Yeah.
coaxial cable.
Yes, the fiber optic cables and so on. But for a layman, I don't know which examples you give them. Maybe if you can use home-related examples.
Like the cables which they put in the decoders for signal.
So how does it become a medium?
When it connects the antenna to the decoder, so the antenna transmits the signals through the cable to the decoder, and then the decoder shows the programs.
I think that is a very good one. We have a decoder, and maybe I need to sketch this for those who may have forgotten how a decoder looks like. Okay, how an antenna looks like. And now you're using another technical term, antenna. Maybe someone may have never heard of that, but it's trying to refer to a dish, maybe, or any antenna. I think we are now out of antennas. I'm just using DSTV here. Assume this is a DSTV dish, and you put it on your house. If this is an house, assume this has been connected there. So if this is the house, there is this cable that always moves from the DSTV to this house up to inside here to a decoder. So what is the insertion of this cable? This is called a medium of communication, a medium. So every time signals reach this decoder, this dish up the house, they cannot penetrate into your house through air or any other way. There must be a medium that guides them up to down here to the decoder. So the programs that he has said could be a program on NTV, UBC, or any of those programs that you watch on TV. And if you want to get rid of those programs, just cut this cable. There will be no communication from the dish up the is another very good example of a medium. And I love music. So there is these robots. You have your phone is here. And maybe this could be a techno phone. Assume this is techno phone, or any phone. Then you have your robot here. And I want to play music. Assume this is a robot. I can't draw it better than that. Your phone is here, maybe a smartphone, of course. And you want to play music. Typical music is represented always by this thing. I want to play music. What are some of the mediums I can use to have the music move from this phone to my robot here? Assume this is the robot. Yes, Jojo?
You can use Bluetooth.
I can use Bluetooth. Yes, Abdallah?
I use the pin to pin.
I can use what?
Pin to pin. Pin to pin. I think pin USB.
I can't hear, Abdallah.
I feel like
Okay, I can't hear. Any other person?
a pin to pin, sir.
Oh, pin to pin. Oh, it's called audio pin. You can use the pin. So you connect a pin from here. So these are all mediums. Bluetooth is a medium. Pin to pin is a medium. One of it is wireless. The other one is wired, or it is physical, according to that definition he gave us. So when we talk about the sender, that girl had told us the protocol, we talked about it, the medium, we talked about it, and now we are here. We can talk about the message and specifically, someone talk about the message, giving one real life example at least. Yes, Irene?
Now the message is the data being communicated about the information. For example, if I write hi and send it to someone, that hi is the message or the information being communicated.
Provided you, I beg your pardon, I want to hear that definition again. You moved very fast. The examples are clear, but now the definition.
The message is the information being communicated.
Yeah, and I would really love it when you add in that it's initiated by the sender to the receiver, provided it is from this side to the other side, and it is the message always. And you've given us a hi, and that is, a hi is not a message, but that is called text. That line you have said hi. So that is text, and it is an example of the message. It could be a good morning, it could be a photo, it could be a song, it could be a video, provided you, the sender, wants it delivered to another person. It could be even money. So once you, the sender, wants it to go to somewhere else, then we shall refer to it as information. That's why we have what we call ICT, the technology used to communicate information is the one we refer to as ICT. And ICT stands for Information Communication Technology. This means any technology that can be used to communicate information. And the information could be the hi, like she has said. Which technology do you use to communicate this from one place to another? That one will be referred to as ICT. In Uganda, ICT is even a full ministry. So you can develop your interest in ICT, become the minister, or you can become the state minister. So she has given us a good feel of that. And the receiver, I think, is obvious now, unless someone wants to give it a try.
Me, teacher.
Go ahead, Job.
A receiver is a device that accepts the incoming information from the sender.
Yeah, it accepts, or is the final destination or something like that. I love the fact that you've removed the word receiving, and that one makes it a very good definition. So we will assume that it is now clear the elements of data communication. Noise is not one of them. And whoever gave us that, let's remove it from what we know about elements of data communication. So I will be displaying some of these elements, and the first one is a message, and it is information being communicated, and we saw so many examples. And the second one is obviously the sender, and it's a device that sends data message. And I discourage the word sends. Just avoid it if you're writing the definition of the sender. But maybe we may not avoid it because it is not saying that saying, okay, let's avoid it. The sender is the device that initiates the information being communicated or something like that. But when you look at this definition, I think it is also avoiding the word sender, which makes it correct. It's avoiding the word sender because it's the one that is being defined here. The word that is being defined is sender. So provided your definition avoids the word sender from it, then good to go. But to be very safe, avoid writing sender anyway completely. So the next one is the receiver, and the device that receives the message. And there is what we call the medium, and it is the physical pathway. And the word physical here is not very good. It has to be stroked with. For those who have been following, it has to be stroked with what?
Wireless.
It has to be stroked with wireless. So let's have it out. Let's have it out from the definition, and we stroke it with the medium. Just need to be physical or wireless. The physical stroke wireless by which message travels from the sender to the receiver. And we talked about so many examples of a media. And last is the protocol, a set of rules that govern data communication. And we've seen, like in a school setting, protocol number one is school uniform. You cannot just come from there and walk into school when you don't have school uniform. That is called a protocol. And you know very well in school, a protocol, a teacher is most respected. You cannot come from nowhere, even if you're a big cow, and start to insult a teacher or do anything to the teacher. You will always be expelled because you've not followed protocol. In church, when you want to stand, you wait until they tell you to stand, or if you're standing, then you are moving out. You cannot just stand. There are so many protocols in church, but you cannot just also walk in front of church unless which chart is that. So there is also a protocol. So even in sending of data and information, there are also protocols, and those are the rules that govern data communication. They're very, very key. I pray that you don't forget them. So there are 5 elements of data communication. Yeah, just there. We'll continue and see what else we have to talk about. So in the next slide, we want to talk about the terms that are related to data communication. And one of the big terms that we must talk about is analog and digital signals. So the terms used under data communication, the first one is data signal. Someone defined the word data signal, and did not define, actually told us communication involves sending of data signals or something. So there is something called the data signal. You see, if you have your song that you want to send to someone, or you have a document, it could be a book for maybe A level, you want to send to someone, it can't go physical, it cannot be sent in a physical sense. That book that you're sending has to be converted into what we call the data signals. These data signals can either be analog or digital. I will make use of a speaker, like I told you earlier. If you have a speaker, I am assuming, I don't know how to draw the music system. Okay, assume this is the thing the DJs use, and they are playing music from it to a speaker this other side. I assume that is a very big speaker with its top. Of course, the speakers have something like this. I pray that you try to understand my diagram. You're seeing a speaker up here, not a jerrycan. And assume this is a speaker. So every time you're playing a song from this other side, a song cannot be carried physically to this other side. It has to be transferred using data signal. And these data signals are in most cases converted into electric currents. I can't write it well here on my screen. In fact, if you cut this cable from somewhere here and you use the voltmeter to check, you'll find volts here. For those people who have been so good at this, like when for us we were very young, we would disconnect the speaker from this music system and we connect bulbs. So when you connect bulbs here, you will see the bulbs dancing. That is how they come up with the disco lights, as you see in clubs. For those who have been to places where music is playing from, you see that the bulbs are trying to mimic the rhythm of a certain song that is playing. So those are called data signals. You're sending your book, it has to be converted into data signal that is transferable, either through a wire or through wiring. And if it's a song using a cable, it has to be converted into electric field that can be transferred using a wire. If you want to use wireless, like on a robot, you want to use Bluetooth, then it has to be converted into something to do with the waves, and it can be transferable through the air. So those are called data signals, and sometimes they can be analog, sometimes they can be signal. You'll be asked to distinguish between analog and digital signals. Later we'll see. But what is a data signal? A data signal is a voltage level in the circuit which represents the flow of data. So you'll be asked to define what is data signal, and you can look for a simpler definition for a data signal. But as far as I'm concerned, the book I'm trying to refer to, its simplest definition you can ever write is the voltage level in the circuit, which represents the flow of data. And this can be either digital or it can be analog. And if they want you to distinguish between analog and digital signals, the definitions are over there. And the best example I can use here is that the analog signals are continuous. The word is continuous. I can underline it for you to see. The word is continuous. This is very, very important. And these ones are non-continuous. These ones are non-continuous. And the best example I can use here is, you remember the TVs we had at home. Those days, I don't know if you happen to have ever seen a TV that looks like that. You people are not now, you've never seen, maybe some of you, but TVs used to look like this. And even in primary, when they ask you to draw a TV and you draw something flat like this, they will not even mark you. This is a square or a box. A TV is represented by this because those are the traditional TVs. These ones used to use digital signals, and this one, sorry, they used to use analog signals. And these flat screens that we have now, maybe if I'm, let me now redraw a flat screen. A flat screen always has something like this, those stands. These flat screens use digital signals, and this ones use what we call the analog signals. And the beauty with these analog signals is that they are continuous. For example, if it is raining and you're watching football on such a TV that uses analog signals, you will see it starting to become not very clear, but you continue seeing the football, you continue seeing the news. They were used popularly for watching news. You'll continue. At some point, if it's colored, it will drop showing photos, showing colored photos to black and white or something, because the signals have reduced. It doesn't go off. But for a digital TV screen, for a digital signal, it is either on or it is off. You cannot be watching football. Maybe Arsenal is playing or Manchester United is playing, and all of a sudden the pictures start to change into black and white. Everyone will shout and they will maybe move out because it is either on or off. When the signals go off, you just see a black screen, or you see a blue screen or a white screen, depending on the settings of that TV. But whereas these ones that are continuous, you continue to see something even when the signals are really reduced, or the pictures can go off, but the sound will always remain. So the digital signals are very good, very clear, but they are non-continuous. They are either on or off. You either see a clear thing or you don't see completely. Whereas these ones are continuous. For those who do mathematics, you understand this so well, or you will study this so well in paper 2, where they will talk about non-continuous, continuous and non-continuous random variables. You will see them. And paper 2 when you get there, for those who have not got there. But for those who don't do math, you can just end it at knowing that if it is continuous, it doesn't totally go off. But for this one, they will always go off. Examples of other analog signals. You really don't know which are the examples. It should be very clear to you that the other one is so good compared to the other one because it is continuous. And this analog technologies continued to be used even in the recent technologies, but the digital signals seem to be taking over almost in every technology that comes up. So even when they are writing numbers at the petrol station, they use what we call the light emitting diodes. Light emitting diodes. And the light emitting diode, in most cases, there are 9 of them, like this, at any particular point. I'm talking about a petrol station. I want to show you digital display at petrol stations. There are always 9 of them like this. So it is either on or off. For example, if they want to write 7,000 per liter, they will turn off all other bulbs, but they will leave only these ones on. You will see a 7 that looks like that. Very the same. Every petrol station, you will see a 7 that looks like that. Reason, they're using digital signal. But if it's analog, a person can write 7 like that. So if they don't want 7, maybe the petrol is reduced to 4,000, assuming it has reduced, they will turn off other lights, but they will only leave this on. Maybe this line can be left on for you to see a 4. And the 4 will be like this everywhere. It is so funny when they are writing 8. I think 8 is written like this. I think I've missed some of the buttons. Something like that. 8 can be also written like that digitally. It is either on or off. So when they're writing 8, there is no bulb that will be instructed to light small because there is no bulb that uses analog signals on that board. So the rule is, so here they use only digital technology. There is nothing like analog. Then you'll see how to relate it when a question is asked to give the difference between analog and digital signals. But what I can leave behind is that one of it is continuous and the other one is discontinuous. This is a full subtopic when you're studying data somewhere in the introduction. If you can't get it from here under communication, you'll get it elsewhere. So is there any question on data? I mean, on the digital and analog signals, or else we'll talk about another term? Okay, I don't see any hand up. Another term is coming from what we call the signal moderation and demoderation. They will ask you to give the difference between a signal moderation and demoderation. And signal moderation and demoderation is only performed using a very powerful item called a modem. A modem looks like this, and you put a SIM card inside it, and it can provide the internet to your laptop, to your desktop, and so on. So when they talk about signal moderation and demoderation, the main hardware component here is called the modem. And this is the process of converting data signals to and from that is suitable for transmission of a transmission medium. And the example that has been given here is that a modem converts a digital signal by superimposing it on an analog carrier signal, which can be transmitted over analog telephone lines. This is called moderation. A modem at the receiving end converts the analog signals into digital form, process called moderation. Now, this machine is making a lot of noise here. I pray that you're able to hear. Now, when you have your modem, it converts the digital signals that you have on your computer into analog signals because it wants to transfer them from one point to another. Now, if I send you a hi, like someone said here, that is a digital signal. And remember, it has to be moved over an analog transmission medium, like a cable. So this modem converts your hi into those signals that can be transferred using any medium. And when this hi reaches the other side, if that person doesn't have a modem, they will not be able to see the hi because it will have been received, but still in the format that this person cannot understand. So why do we buy data? We buy data such that we can do the conversions from whichever signal to whichever signal. For example, if you bought data, you'll be able to send a video. But if you don't have data, you can't send. Why? Because a video is digital, and for you to send it, you must have converted it into a medium that can be sent via a medium. For example, you want to send it from one point to another, then it must be converted into electromagnetic waves. So for you to convert from electromagnetic waves, you need what we call a modem, or you need data on your phone to do that process. Then it is transmitted to that particular person, and that particular person, even if for you, you see that you have sent, the other person cannot receive it until they also have data. When they have data, why do we buy data? To also convert what this person has sent into some form that can be understood by our devices. That process is called demoderation, and it is done by a modem. Or you can fit your line directly into your phone and use it, and it can perform the modem role. If you don't have a phone and you have your laptop and want to use it, then the only option to do those conversions, you must use a modem. Is there any question about signal moderation and demoderation? You would ask, or else we see. Yes, DJ?
Sir, so a modem is like an abbreviation.
Yeah, a modem is an abbreviation. We explained this in the previous lesson. But a modem in full is called a moderator, demoderator. Moderator, demoderator. You'll read about that again. But a modem is not an English word. Any other question? And these modems come branded. Some of them are Airtel, others are MTN, others are open. You can put there any line and use. But the beauty here with that is that when you want to convert the one of MTN to Airtel, it is possible at a cost. But why would you struggle to do all that when you can buy a modem that can work for all networks? So the modem is very important. That is item or term called signal moderation and demoderation. It is in number 2. In number 3, we have, now this is very important. There is something called a multiplexer and a demultiplexer. And before I talk about this item, maybe let me display it. It is in number 3. It's called multiplexing. You people, when we talk about sending and receiving of messages, this is a very expensive thing. Now, if the president, for example, I don't know if you've ever sat down and imagined the president, does he use MTN or Airtel? Someone should tell us in the chat here. Do you think the president uses MTN or Airtel, or which line do you think he uses? Or he uses what? Let me see what people think here. Or if you were the president, what would you use? Airtel, because it's common. Now the president is always wanting to be unique. Now you want to use Airtel because it is common. Now people are relating it to President Museveni. Because now when you say yellow and it is MTN, those people, it's just by coincidence, but I think MTN does not mean NRM. Just by coincidence, but I also don't know whether President Museveni uses MTN or Airtel, but what I can say here is that MTN or Airtel is used by people who cannot afford a private line, but these people privately communicate to themselves. They do this privately. The word is private. Let me write it here. The word is private. You people, if you're in the government, let me tell you, for those who can hear here, there is a lot of secrets that if in any of those secrets linked, the country may even enter into a war, or maybe the government can collapse. So there are some secrets that must be kept. So whoever is planning to enter politics, you should be able to keep secrets. I want to see if there are politicians here. Do we have anyone who intends to join politics by show of hands? And if you're going for politics, you're going to tell us which post do you want to go. Someone using Lenovo tab, which post do you want to go for?
You might want to go for the post of being an MP.
Hey, what's your name?
My name is Nwagaba Emmanuel.
Okay. Emma wants to be
An MP. Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe that one. Yeah, you may not keep so many secrets. But even MPs must keep secrets. Then Peter says he wants to be an ambassador. You see, for you to be an MP, you must keep a lot of secrets, especially when it comes to the campaigning period. Yeah? People steal a lot of money. They do a lot of very funny things. There is what we call malice. I come from a constituency that has our area member of parliament is called Nathan Mapavi, and towards elections, there is a lot of blackmail if you were to go through. So if they are talking of blackmail, and for you don't know, then you start telling people, you know that he was deceiving. For example, if we are to use yesterday's incidents for Bobby Wine, it is alleged that he was shot a bullet, and you very well know that a bullet will just break that boy's leg. It wouldn't have allowed him to move, but he continued to move. So if for you, you come out and say, but me, I was there, it wasn't a bullet, it was just a mere stone. You must keep secrets, whether it was true or not. I'm not sure if it was a bullet or it wasn't. But at least what we saw, those people right who were on the ground was what? A bullet. And that is what has been written. Or you cannot go contrary and say, no, but me, I saw this. So in government, someone wants to be a prime minister here. A prime minister, you have to be very, 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 very smart. You must be private. So a prime minister also discourage you from using MTN or Airtel or any of that. Why? Because you see, Emma, do you still have something to say? Or why is that hand up?
No, I don't have.
Okay. Now, you see, when you're using MTN, every communication you make is tracked. Actually, when you send a message to someone, good morning, they see it somewhere, but they just don't tell you we've seen it. When you send a song, when you put your phone on the ear to call your parents or to call who, they are hearing it, but they are not just interested, but they can hear it. Reason, because we use what we call a shared media communication. Imagine the president wants to talk to, I want to see you in power. Who is that one who wants, so those who wants to join the politics, you have to be careful. For example, if the president of Uganda wants to talk to the president of Kenya privately, then you can't use MTN. They will know now President Museveni is calling Ruto. What is he about to say? Then they will tap into and listen. For example, these WhatsApp messages you send to each other, it can be downloaded even from this site where I am. If I am interested and I know how to get them, I can download the whole of it and read through. So if they arrest you in court, maybe they have arrested you for being a spy or something, the first thing they do is to download all your WhatsApp messages that you have ever sent and to who. Your WhatsApp, your phone calls. I think WhatsApp, for those who stay online for so long, it could be a very big booklet equivalent to maybe Backhouse 1 and 2 or the BS of biology or something bigger than that. Then they read through a line at a time. Why? Because you used a shared medium. So if the president of Uganda wants to talk to Ruto in Kenya, there are private lines they use. So for me, who is in Bali, and I'm making a call to a friend in Kampala, I must use a shared medium like MTN, like I can use Airtel to help me send this information to Kampala. But at the same time, I am calling people in Kampala. Another one is calling also in Kampala. Another one is calling in Sirompo. Another one. So MTN does what we call multiplexing, and multiplexing helps us to send a lot of messages using one medium like this. So when this medium reaches Kampala, there is what we call a demultiplexer. It then switches from, if sender one was sending this information, let me use this picture. If sender one is sending this information to sender two, like this, it has to be converted to one line like MTN. Now, many people are here using MTN and sending messages to Kampala or where. So when it reaches here, this is called the demultiplexer. It now starts to switch. Sender one is supposed to go to the respective sender, like sender two. Then they will switch sender one to sender 5. That is disaster. That is when you hear someone saying, maybe I've called the wrong number or something. Maybe that is intentional. You called the number, but you missed one number. But if MTN makes that mistake at the deplexing stage, then there will be a lot of mess and it will come out and apologize. So we all use MTN to send information. And when it reaches where they switch them from, they now switch this to respective receivers, but we all use one shared channel like MTN, like Airtel, and so on. So at that point, there is a lot of machinery. You cannot do that using a physical person. Then a person will make mistakes. So there are so many machinery that happens there, and it helps to switch. Otherwise, if the president is communicating, they use landlines. It calls direct without MTN, without Airtel. Then even in the police, there are those radio calls. They are also direct. They are not shared with anyone. That's why if they are handing over power, maybe a DPC, maybe a big official in army, they give you the first thing, they give you the tool of office is a radio call for the communication. But for us to use MTN, Airtel, these are shared mediums. And if you risk to abuse anyone, it can be re-downloaded and you can use it against you. There is an example here of a direct call. If these two computers, like maybe the head teacher wants to talk to the deputy, they can make for them a direct line that makes them talk without having to use MTN. If something is too classified and it is not having what, it's supposed not to be linked at all. They use a direct line. There is an example here. Then this particular example is using a shared line. This computer sends to a shared line, and when it reaches here, it is reconverted and it goes to the specific senders, and specific receivers, and so on. So this is a term that is very, very common, and this is a term that is very common. Don't underrate it. You will open your exam question paper, and you'll find they want you to distinguish between multiplexing and demultiplexing. And multiplexing, will say, is the process of sending multiple data signals over the same medium. And we are talking about the same medium could be an MTN cable. Now, if you want to use a different medium, you must dig a channel, maybe from Kampala up to here where you want to talk all the time. Or you must get, I don't know how they get these radio calls. You need a radio call in your house, such that if the information is too classified, then you use a radio call. Otherwise, with these lines, they can always hear what you're talking. So that's why some of these government officials don't use these lines. Someone was saying Airtel, they may not use them, or they will use it if they're not making a very serious communication. But sometimes they prefer writing a message on a paper, then you deliver it there, such that it ends there. Sometimes after reading, they tear it into parts such that it does not ever go in. Then demultiplexing is the process. Demultiplexing is the process of sending the multiplexed signals at the receiving end. Now that one goes to the specific person this person intended to send the message to. And they have given you a scenario here that imagine a situation where 100 computers in town A wants to communicate with others of equal number in town B. So we have 100 in town A, we have 100 in town B. That is 200 computers. If we didn't have multiplexing, what do you think would happen? Each of the computers in town A will need a direct cable linking it to its partner in town B, assuming town A is in Bali and town B is in Kampala. So each computer would need a cable that connects it from Bali to Kampala. And how many cables would we have moving up there in the sky? Imagine like Bali says alone, we are having a population, like in an ICT class of senior 5, we have about 800 students, senior 5 of the ICT class alone, assuming it is compulsory that every student of ICT must have a smartphone. And in another school like Mengeses, where they also have many ICT students, if these students must communicate to each other, Balises alone will need 800 cables. That is without teachers. Then Mengeses will also need 800 computers, 800 cables. And you can imagine how it would look like in space. 800 cables times 2. That is 1,600 cables just moving from Mengo to Barisis. That is where the confusion will start from. So that one means each of the computer in town A will need a direct cable linking it to its partner in town B. However, with multiplexing, the computer can be made to share a single cable laid between those two lines here, hence reducing on those costs. So instead of us using 1,600 cables, we just get one line and we do what we call multiplexing. And doing multiplexing, not everyone can do because this is extremely expensive. Even the government tried and they failed. You remember the UTL. UTL is almost failing, Uganda Telecom, because it is expensive to run a telecom company. That's why MTN dominates, Airtel dominates, because for them, they have offered to invest in a lot of money to do what we call multiplexing. Otherwise, if you cannot invest in money, you will make people call different people and they will just run away from your network instantly. You will make losses. So that is those two words here are very, very key. They will ask you to distinguish between multiplexing and demultiplexing, or they may ask you to explain what is meant by multiplexing in computer studies. So that is what it means. Just in case there is a question, let me know. If there is no question, we will proceed. Yes, Jojo? Jojo, you can go on. Jojo, did you forget the hand up or you're failing to open your microphone? Any other person can say something as Jojo organizes himself. Emma, do you want to say something? I see your microphone is open. Or Irene? Irene, you can go on.
Master, now for me who uses Airtel or MTN, if I delete the messages, can they still download them later when they need them?
Now, they are Airtel and MTN. If you delete messages, I think that one you can never be safe because you Yeah, sorry about that. I was saying for Irene, if you delete a message on your phone, I still have it. Or if we agreed that let us both delete, I delete, you delete. If you use I'm wondering if anyone can still hear.
Yes.
Okay, my network became very unstable here because of a call that I received. I pray that we bring back the laptop here quickly. I was saying those days when you lose your when you lose your phone, for example, you would call MTN and they send you your numbers. You can imagine, for you've lost a phone, you've lost all your contacts, and you're calling MTN, you're calling Airtel to beg them to send you your numbers that you have been saving in your phone book. You can imagine how do they access them, and yet for you've lost them. So that one means they will always keep a copy. The same applies to your messages. When you send messages to someone, even if you delete them, they will always have. The only way to be protected is, I think, for WhatsApp, because for WhatsApp, there is a contract you sign with them. And that contract protects you just in case you delete a message. But even if you deleted on WhatsApp database will always keep those deleted messages. I want to discourage writing and delete thinking it's safe. I'm trying to buy time to bring back my laptop. If there is any other question, please ask. Yes, Jojo?
Sir, I was asking about the simplex and the duplex.
Asking what?
Simplex and duplex.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, like, could you please elaborate on them?
Simplex and duplex. Okay, we'll talk about that when it comes to real data communication. But for simplex, sending of messages in one way using a call box, a radio call, for example. And the best example I can give you here is the remote controller of a TV. A TV can never control the remote, but the remote that controls the TV. So it means the TV is vulnerable. It cannot send back signals to the remote, but the remote can manage to turn it on, can turn it off, and so on. That is a simplex way of communication. Then the duplex way means both of them can send. There is half duplex, then there is full duplex, and so on. We'll get there, but one of it is that the key thing I can say here is that when we talk about simplex way of communication, it is talking about communication, but in different directions. We've not reached there, unfortunately. Was that the only question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any other question someone should ask? I'm trying to wait for my laptop to get on. Yes, back here. Yes, Peter?
I wanted to know about how the UCC in Uganda, like, yeah, that process, like that thing of UCC in Uganda, how do they do it?
Now, UCC stands for Uganda Communications Commission. It manages all the communications in the country. I will explain that. Let me see what I can. Yeah, and I was saying the UCC is Uganda Communications Commission, and it regulates all the communications in the country. And the president of Uganda has chosen it as a ministry, so they even give it a full ministry, like the minister of ICT is the one who directly monitors what UCC does. But what I can say here is that you can read about more about what UCC does. But what I can say is that if you want to register a company like MTN, you must register with UCC. They must give you a license. So once a person tells you, give us a license, they want to monitor directly what you do. For example, if Irene had an affair with a certain person here, let me say, maybe he wrote some wrong information to Peter, threatening Peter, or maybe Peter sent a message to Irene threatening her. Then Irene or Peter connives with MTN to hide this information. UCC has rights to bring it out through the policy they are designed with them. So when you register with UCC, it means you're working under them. But also there are some things that are very expensive to put. For example, there are these things called the repeaters. We call them boosters. If MTN is saying they want to put a booster, it's very expensive for them. They will even close business outside Uganda. Or maybe it is better for MTN to put. But NBS, NTV, Baba TV or something, those small TVs around Uganda, if they are to put their own, it becomes expensive. So what UCC does, it intervenes. It sets up a very big repeater, or what we call the booster, in Bali. And if NTV wants to rebroadcast its signals, it applies to UCC to use their booster. So they carry their sort of decoder. They don't want to be so much technical in that area. I don't know what they use, but those things look like drums. They carry their item, come and put here. They have put already infrastructures already for you. So it makes life easier for NBS, for NTV to operate in Uganda because they are being regulated by UCC. And the day they would want NTV to close, UCC just writes a statement and say henceforth, NTV will not operate in Uganda, and that is final. Why? Because they can instruct them to remove their items from the mask that they had put. They can stop their license. When you're writing a contract with someone, you have the capacity to stop. Just like constructs road, a road is very expensive to construct, but it can construct a road from Kampala up to Bali. Then for us, we just use. So these companies, these commissions have been put in place to regulate these communications, especially if MTN chooses to charge a lot of money for MTN bundles. They regulate them. They tell them, you know what? You're charging Ugandan to reduce. For example, for those who are not very young here, you must have known that we were using scratch cards to buy airtime. So we had the one for 500 and 1,000. I don't know if you saw them.
but it was detected, or someone did the research and realized that the material that was used to cover those digits was very harmful and it could cause over cancer or something. Then UCC took a resolution and said, going forward, we are banning scratch cards. But MTN alone couldn't ban because it was cheaper for them. And Airtel alone couldn't do that. That is one. Two, even UCC, the same UCC, for you to load or to check airtime on MTN, you would press *56#. This one no longer works. For us to check airtime on MTN, we would press *156#, and on Airtel, we would press *131#, like that. They came and said, you're confusing people. Now, MTN has this, Airtel has this. They said, can we switch to all to one item? So MTN and Airtel agreed that we use this. So we stopped checking using *156. And even for mobile money, it was *185 for Airtel, then *165 for MTN. They stopped that and everyone uses *165. So they come in to regulate and measure, that is their role. I don't think they will ask you for such a question. If there is any question, ask. If there is no question, because of time, I want to quickly run through this slide. I don't know if I've answered this. Who was that for you, Sisi? Peter?
Yes, you've answered.
All right, but you need to read more about it. There are even many job opportunities. If you're interested in what they do, that can even give you some work inside there. So item number 5 is talking about bandwidth. We talked about bandwidth in the previous lesson, and it refers to the amount of data that can be transmitted at one point. And we said that bandwidth is measured in Mbps. Mbps stands for megabytes per second. So the bandwidth is the maximum amount of data that a transmission medium can carry at any one time. So don't be there and you're using Leica from Bloda and you expect to download the movie. The bandwidth for Leica is lower. And in the previous lesson, I displayed these examples of bandwidth. MTN is the leading bandwidth network in the country, of course, followed by Airtel. Then, like I think comes later, you can ask Google the bandwidth that Leica uses. You can check what Africell uses. We no longer have Africell here, and so on. The bandwidth is, so MTN is terribly faster. That's why even its internet is very expensive, and Airtel is a bit slower, but also closer as well. Its maximum megabytes per second it can download is 22.27. Now, it means if you get where there is a very stable network, a movie of about 30 megabytes or a song of 30 megabytes, on MTN, you will download it in just 1 second. So it keeps on varying up to where you're staying. But also, which phone are you using? If your phone doesn't support 3G, it is too slow if it supports 2G. Now, if your phone doesn't support 4G, you can't also expect to use 34.26 Mbps. If your phone doesn't support 5G, then you're also limited. It depends on the gadget you're using. And of course, a laptop is always more faster than a phone normally. So that is called bandwidth. It is a question, it is a term that they will always ask you to define in computer as well. If there is any question, ask. If there is no, we see item number 6. Okay, so the bandwidth looks like that. The next one is called attenuation. And someone talked about noise in our elements that we had talked about here. Unfortunately, I can't remember that person. Was it Abdallah or someone talked about noise? And number 6 here is one of the terms we use in networking, and it is called attenuation. If you've been careful, if you're around the TV station and you receive a call, you see some lines run from the TV. That one is even when the TV is not very, very big. But most of you are using TV effect. But if you're seated next to a radio and a phone call comes in, you will always see that kind of sound that comes in. That one is called attenuation, and it means your phone call that has just come in has reduced the network signal for a station that was being picked by your radio set. And it will continue for some time up to when you stop that call. So why does it come? Because there has been reduction or terrible increase of network signals. If it shoots so high, it also makes that one increase. If it overdrops, it also. So that's what we call attenuation. And this is the decrease in magnitude and energy as the signal progressively moves along a transmission media. So what causes attenuation in most cases is when the cable is too long. If the cable is too long, there is always that attenuation. And if the cable is so long, how do we correct that mistake? You see, as the signals are moving from Kampala coming to, okay, let's use like a mobile. If you're in town here, because they have put their hardware devices here in Bale town, in Kampala, people should be having theirs and so on. So every time you move very far away from their hardware, from their dish or from their satellite or something that they use, the internet speed drops. And every time you go very far away from it, it doesn't now work completely. So that is what we call long cabling if they're using a cable. And how do you correct that? You must put a booster somewhere. That's why I don't know if you know that it is possible for you to call Kenya. If this is Uganda, hope I remember how to draw the map of Uganda, something like that. Kenya is also somewhere here. And then Tanzania and Rwanda and these friends, this other side. You know, moving a cable from Kampala here to maybe, let me take it to the coast of Tanzania down here. This is around in Dar es Salaam, maybe or Mombasa in Kenya, somewhere here. Moving a cable from here up to the side, it will reach when it has reduced its below. So what you do, if you're moving it from Kampala to Kenya through Mbale, hope you know Mbale is somewhere here. You have to put a booster here. Let me use a different color. You must put a booster here to help to reduce the attenuation because the energy signal, the energy levels have reduced, the magnitude has reduced. So you put a booster here. A booster is called a mast for those who have not known what a booster means. It looks like this in most cases. There are those for MTN, there are those for Airtel, and those ones. They are called masts or network boosters, and whichever name that they can give it in the local language. So you put it here, one there, then you put another one in Nairobi, or maybe Nairobi is even verified. You keep testing and see whether the signals have overdropped. Then you put another one around this border, then the last one will be in Dar es Salaam here. So why do we put so many of them? To reboost or to regenerate these network signals. If the best word is to amplify these signals, to step them up. Otherwise, by the time it reaches Tanzania, when no one can hear anything at all. Reason? Because of the long cables. Then the wire size is one of the reasons. And to read more about the causes of signal attenuation, if you find time, then there is what we call noise. Someone tried to explain noise here at first, the introduction, And the noise can be because of lightning, when there is a lot of lightning, or rain, or too much sunshine, or so on. It brings in what we call noise, and it will always bring in what we call attenuation. Or lastly, poor installation of connectors and conductors. You have got a person to wire for you your DSTV, but he doesn't know how to connect. So your DSTV will have very poor signal because of the poor connectors and conductors. They have not installed it so well. So that can also cause attenuation. If you put a decoder and they've not connected it well, any slight rain can put off pictures. So as an ICT student, if you have such problems at home, you can always advise your parents to bring a technician to check again and see where the problem is. So that attenuation is at item number 6. They can ask you to define what is attenuation. And we say this is the decrease in the magnitude and energy as the signals progressively moves along a transmission medium. If the signal is not boosted, it will totally be lost along the way and may never reach the destination. So you can imagine how very bad. And if there is no question here, we can proceed. Someone should ask a question at least here. Yes, Jojo, is that hand up?
Sir, so you're saying network must is the same as a repeater.
Sorry?
A network must is the same as a repeater.
Yeah, it's the same as a repeater, but a network must is outside. A repeater is always put inside a computer lab or maybe in a room. But a must is the other technology of a repeater. It uses the same mechanism, but it is put outside. But its importance is just the same. You're boosting the signal.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so a network booster, very important. For those who have never seen a mast, now for the ladies, it is very bad for you to be around them, especially when you're pregnant. That's why if they are coming to put a booster in any place, they buy those people expensively, that they go away. But in a community where me I come from, we have a specific, me, I'm coming from this side where we have so many mountains, and those who come from places where there are mountains, those are the areas they always prefer to put repeaters. Reason? Because of the high altitude. So here we've seen so many people being bought off. They buy you off expensively to go away because what they are putting there is called a repeater station. It is a very, very, very classified. It's very, very dangerous to your life. So for the ladies, if you're pregnant, you're not supposed to cross around that area because the other thing I've not talked about here is that network signals travel in a straight line. They don't bend. You can imagine if someone is calling from Kampala to Bari, there is that straight line that is being established from Kampala to Bari, but in space you will not see them. So if they reach Bari and they are supposed to proceed to Kenya, then for you, a lady and standing where they are boosting them from, they move out when they are very, very strong and the rays penetrate. Of course, these signals penetrate through all of us. But a pregnant lady is more vulnerable because at that point you're carrying a baby who is too weak. So those signals, if they penetrate through that body of the kid that is inside the womb, in most cases you can deliver a person who is disabled. So I want to discourage for those who have parents and you stay near network boosters, politely talk to them to avoid those places. Even you avoid the place because the work of a network booster is to bring out very, very strong signals. You go there at your own risk. At least for us, we used to go there to take photos when we didn't know. Those days when we were young, where there is a booster, you would run there in the evening to try to take photos from there. And now that we've known it is very dangerous, please discourage people from being next to those boosters. And they will always buy you expensively, and that place will be fenced such that you don't access it. Okay, don't go there. At least I've warned the ladies here, but even the boys here should not also go there because you're also very vulnerable. Any slight mistake, you can not produce. At least for a girl, she'll produce a person who is disabled, but she would have produced. But for a boy, it is even worse. If these signals pass through you carelessly, you will not be able to produce. For example, if you're carrying a laptop and this laptop is connected to maybe a modem and you're downloading files, you're doing what, and you're making it sit on your laps, that is very, very dangerous as well because, like I told you, signals travel in a very straight line. So item number 7, I think we don't have it here. There are only 6 that I captured here, but there are several of them. You can read more about these terms that we use in computer communication. But if we had enough time, we'll finish this. Unfortunately, the time is up. But the next slide has communication tools. And we are saying these are devices that allow the user to communicate messages. And there are several messages, of course. There is manual, and there is what we call electronic communication tools. Now, they will ask you to distinguish between manual and electronic data communication tools. Do you remember drums? When a person used to die at home, they used to use drums. People have grown in a time when technology has moved very fast. Drums, you may have never seen even the drum. But for us here where I'm coming from, if they are going to circumcise someone, the only form that is allowed is using drums. Why do we use drums when they are going to circumcise someone? It's because we want to communicate to the public that the person they are taking is going to be circumcised. That is the essence of those drums. But also at church, they use these drums to tell people that there is a service that is about to start. They make drums, but now people in town, I think people, they just send a message on WhatsApp that the service will start. The service that was start at 7 has been extended to 9. But in villages, if you wait and you're not hearing the drum, they have not started what? Service. So you wait until the drum is when you can go to church, because those churches are near. So that is the one form of manual communication. Who else can give us another one? There are several of them. Jazz drums. Now in town there is jazz drum. Now this one just for music. It's an instrument to support singing. Unfortunately, it may not over communicate. But the drums I'm talking about is this one that is used to communicate. A drum. If a person died during our time, they will do smoke signals. What does smoke signal do? What does it mean? Where you're coming from? When you see smoke, means what?
Like the signaling someone dead.
Someone?
Manual way of communicating.
Communicating
Like
what?
Death of someone.
Yes. Okay, maybe I did not see that. It could be a cultural thing. At our place, we didn't have that. Maybe I've also never seen, but at least what I know about smoke is used by bushmen to communicate that there are people around that point. And in police, they even use stand. If they want to confuse the enemy, they set smoke somewhere, such that all those people start to target at that smoke point where there is smoke, when these people are just put and drain away to see the enemy coming or something. Yeah, but smoke, I think it was a good signal. There is have you, I don't know how, alarming. If they steal something, maybe this one is also going away because when they steal something, these days they just bring a police dog. But during that time, they used to alarm. Person screams loudly, and every time you hear that alarm, just know a person has stolen something. You just move out to run and catch that thief. What else? Under the manual communication, now it may, yes, it's manual data communication as well. There is a drum. Can I see some hands at this up? If you can't write in the chat. The whistle, what does it do? Whistling, let me see. Whistle, yeah, I see whistling. Majorly, I think when they are grazing, but also it's a form, it's an informal way of calling a person. In most cases, the girls, if you see someone whistling at you, it has a very funny communication that you shouldn't easily respond to. Yes, we had the bells. We had the bells. Yes, at school, it is used to communicate time, and so on. So there is manual and electronic here. Manual doesn't use power, peak for short distance, it does not support information digitally. It doesn't support information digitally. For example, the bell that someone has talked about, it can't be programmed to sound itself after every 1 hour or two to change the song. Someone has to keep sounding it. Then it does not support sharing, does not require any skill to operate the drum. It is expensive to exchange information. And like the question that this says, it is quick for short distances. You can imagine if you want to communicate to people that I am going to circumcise my boy, and you have to drum from Bali to Kampala instead of using a phone and call the Kampala people directly that, you know what, my boy will be circumcised over the weekend. But here, people have to move from where they are moving to where they are supposed to go to take that message that this boy is going to be circumcised. Or when you're whistling, or you're clapping, or you're making an alarm, it is just good for short distance. Whereas for electronic, quick and fast, especially over the network, it covers a large geographical area. I remember when I got a chance to move to a far country, I was able to call back home and everyone was very excited when they had me talk to them. You people, for those who get chance to get out of the country, always call back home. Those people are eager to hear you speak from another country. So it covers a very large geographical area and availability of data and information digitally. There is always a chance for you to save a copy and you can see that it is possible. It supports sharing and collaboration. It requires literacy skill to use, cheap for exchange of information, and so on. They may ask you to distinguish between two, and we have examples of this manual communication. The first one is the drum. The whistle is there. Someone who talked about the whistle. And also we have clapping. Clapping is used to get attention in most cases, but also to congratulate someone. If someone does something good, then you clap for them. And the clapping, I think what this Zoom has also put that clapping option and a reaction. Unfortunately, I can clap. Okay. And clap using my phone here. Yes, it is possible. Zoom has also added clapping and a reaction. Yeah, I can clap from that point. If the point that they have mentioned is worth it for me to clap, I click there and clap. It is possible. So it's a communication tool as well. Then we have bells and the messengers. Now the messengers are very funny. Don't rely on them. If you want to send a message, if possible, you can go directly or you can
call, never use messenger. It's an old-fashioned type of communicating information. Why do you think it is bad for us to use messengers? A messenger is a person, of course, that delivers information on behalf of someone, and it can cause a lot of problems. For example, by the time a person reaches the receiver when the communication or the message is sent. So you can, if you can avoid the messengers. So examples of electronic, this refers to the mediums through which people can communicate. They include the following: the phone. And you people, the phone is the first example of electronic mode of communication. And it can do so many things like I've talked about here. And it includes texting, includes exchange of pictures, notes, and so many files using a phone. You're communicating, and that is the electronic way of communicating. And you never always liked asking about phones, and the question they ask is on advantages. So the phone as one of the examples of electronic communication gadgets, the message can be received instantly, faster in communication. You don't have to wait for the drum to be sounded. You send a message and it, but they offer at most privacy during communication. Someone was worried here that when they delete a message, not until police intervenes is when that message can be brought out again. Otherwise, once you send your message to someone, don't even get worried that that message can link anywhere, apart from maybe when you're using social media gadgets. If you're not using social media, using SMS, your texts are very, very protected until when there is a court order. If I'm alleging that you sent me a very bad message, I must come with a court order permitting me to have your messages downloaded. If there is nothing like a court order, trust me, no one will ever know who sent the message to you or the person who sent the message to. I want to discourage those who use WhatsApp for communication. That one is worse because even a person can download them. These messages that you send on WhatsApp are saved somewhere inside your files under a folder called Android. You'll always find all your chats saved there. So when you delete this other side, it can be retrieved back using a person who is very technical. Messages like voice notes, the texts can also be downloaded. That's why if they steal your phone and you buy another phone, then you put in your details. WhatsApp itself can even send those messages back to you the way they were. It means they save them somewhere, and it is always very risky to use it for very, very formal communication. If the communication is not very bad, then you can go ahead and use. Irene?
Can I delete those messages in Android also?
Yeah, if you delete them from Android, you're very safe, actually. You'll be very safe. But to only those people who are seen, like you can be safe from a person like me who intends to hack into your WhatsApp. But the person like Meta themselves, the proprietor of the app, you're not safe at all. Because you would have just removed it from your device and they would have you would have left at least a copy inside their database. So, but no one can, of course, access the metadatabases unless if a person manages to break down into where they host WhatsApp from, which is a bit not easy because they also use very professional people. So once you delete from this side and delete from the folder the other side, you're a bit safe because there are some people who have very, very fast computers. If a person comes to you and says, please help me with some video, what? And they are using a USB cable, be very, very careful with them because immediately you put a USB cable, a person can highlight all files and send at once. And if a phone is very fast, before you know it, they have copied all your folders into their computer. In their free time, they can check through and see how you communicate with people and so on. So if you can delete, you'll be very, very safe.
But for phones, even when you don't delete, there is some privacy than when you use a messenger. You see, when you use a messenger to tell them, you know what, I'm going to Kampala for 2 days, but I have kept money under maybe the TV or behind the what? Maybe behind the TV or where there is the woofer. You're sending someone to go and tell your wife. Now there is no privacy because that person can always come and steal that money. But if you just text your wife and say, you know what, I'm leaving for Kampala, but if you need some money, always just bring the TV this side, put money behind there. There is some privacy somehow guaranteed. Then the same phones, they favor both literates and illiterates. Now, last week we were hosting National MDD here. I was surprised when I saw people who are very literate, actually. Not even literate is even fair. People who are even disabled are using phones. People who don't even have hands are able to use a phone. They just give them instructions and they use it. You've seen this, for those who travel so much, you must have seen very, very weird things happening when it comes to phone usage. People can even use legs to chat. People who don't even see can use a phone to communicate, receive calls, and call back. So can favor both literates and illiterates, but also it favors even those people who are disabled. But if you send a disabled person to go and sound the bell, maybe they don't have legs to walk really, or they can't see where the bell is, or they can't hold anything that can sound there. So it may not favor them so much. But a phone is so good. The name is going to ask you to talk about some of these things. And it is very convenient for long distances. I told you when you're out of the country, always call back home. Then they provide a variety of services. People play games on phones, people watch TV, people can chat on phone, people can read using phones and can do everything. Like me, I use a phone to do video editing. I use a phone to manage social media platforms. I use a phone to manage even Zoom. You can teach using a phone and so many other things. So a phone is very good, only if we've not talked about its disadvantages. But the disadvantages are also so many. One of it is that it is expensive if you want to buy it, and it's harmful to people's health. Like if you're talking to someone in a phone call, then that weird sound comes, it can even damage your ears. And it's very bad. It is even harmful because it uses the electromagnetic waves and you can be on a risk if you're using a phone. But also, if the area doesn't have a good network, you cannot hear. Even when you call, like for example, if a person is on an aeroplane, you've gone very far up there. I've never been in an aeroplane, but for those people who have been in an airplane, I don't know. But I've never seen a person in an airplane calling back. Maybe there is no network up there. Has anyone ever been in an airplane here to give us that information? Can you call while you're in an airplane? I've never been there, but this statement shows it's not possible. But also if you're underground, for those people who move in submarines, under the ocean, you can't call. So the phone is very limited. It only works on space right now here. Has anyone ever been in an aeroplane? I want to know what really happened there. All of you are villagers here. I was talking about the aeroplane sometime and I got a chance to teach a student who has never used an aeroplane, but that one just deceived us. Told us that, you know what, if you want to call a person, when you're in an airplane and you want to call, you turn on what they call the airplane mode on your phone. And the person using airplane mode on your phone, hope you know where to turn it from. I'm told you can make free calls with those people using airplane mode. I said, how do you turn on and it works? So it must have deceived us. I really wanted to hear some other
person deceiving us here, but unfortunately we don't have. So airplane mode, up to now I'm contesting that submission. Unless if someone wants to confirm that in an airplane you use airplane mode. So it is limited. People use phones while they are driving and it has caused so many accidents. So a phone can be that very bad and they can limit your face-to-face with your friends and family. I saw, I don't know if I downloaded it. But of course, the WhatsApp group we are on is very public. But I saw a certain introduction where the lady who was introducing the husband was watching from Zoom. You can imagine your own mukolo and you're watching from Zoom. So I saw that one and it was funny. I think this lady was so busy and said, now why do I go home for just a mukolo? She chose to remain where she was working from. And these people continued to bring things at home. And she could not she could not attend physically. So phones have spoiled us to that extent that people cannot even attend a party. For example, for us at Mbalises, we were hosting MDD, and at the same time, there were these East African games that were going on, but from the school for some games like badminton was inside the school. But no one had time to go and see what was happening. Instead, what we were doing, you'd just turn on TV and look for FUFA TV and see if they are showing it, you watch. If they're not showing it, it is okay. People don't want to go there. So it is very bad, and those who can access phones on their phone, who can access TV on their phone, now that is even worse. They cannot interact with people. They just hide anywhere and do whatever they are doing, finish and sleep. So the face-to-face time has been limited. Even in a home, they just create a WhatsApp group. Sugar is over, they post on WhatsApp. Sugar is over, they bring. There is no way you can even talk to parents because you have WhatsApp, you just inbox them. Otherwise, if you're out of books, it is better you go and face Mzee or you face mom, tell her I'm out of books or something. But now with the coming of phones, you just SMS and they bring the books or something like that. So staff can abuse, of course, especially when you're using internet and so on. And I won't explain this so much. It is even worse at schools. They are teaching for you on the internet during working hours or when they are teaching and so on. And because of the small size, they can be easy to lose. People steal them, but also you can even lose them because it's very portable. You can't remember where you put and so on. The first item under electronic communication devices is a phone. The second item is called an email, and we can't talk about the email. I'll just send these notes on WhatsApp. The email is very powerful. The disadvantages are here. And the next item on electronic communication device is social media. You can use social media, and we have so many examples of social media applications here. Most people here use WhatsApp and maybe Instagram, and now TikTok. It's part of what people use here. But there are so many, and so many. You can always look for them and use. It's also under electronic communication devices and so on. So after that, we were supposed to then talk about what we call the data communication media. And communication media refers to the physical or non-physical material that are used to transmit data between computers and networks. And under here, we're going to talk about the cables. Unfortunately, time can't allow us to talk about these cables. But when you go back to your respective schools, maybe you'll start from there. Yes, Irene?
So I see you want to leave, but now what of biology and chemistry? Don't you have any program? Yeah, I'm new. I don't know what always happens, but I'm wondering what of biology and chemistry.
Yeah, biology and chemistry, there is the timetable. Unfortunately, I've not mastered whether there is biology or not. Maybe fun to check. Anyone with the answer? As I check here. But there are those lessons always. There are those lessons. Are you on the WhatsApp group?
Yes, I'm there, but I've never seen anything like biology and chemistry.
You can see. Oh, there is physics, there is math. Biology is missing. Okay, you're right. Maybe we will not have biology this holiday, maybe in the next. Now, what happens here is that sometimes the teachers are not enough to handle some of those subjects and we put what is available, or they are busy in the candidate classes. So what happens if you can't see biology in senior 5, you can always try senior 6 and see if there is biology you attend from a time like now, where there is going to be physics or where there is going to be history. When you don't do history, or you can go for biology if it is there in senior 16. But for this timetable, I think we don't have biology. Otherwise, tomorrow you're going to have mathematics.
Okay, sir, I've got that.
Right. Can we have the questions come up if they are there? If not, we'll end the lesson here. And for those who are not on the WhatsApp group, I'm sharing the WhatsApp group link here. Unfortunately, most of these WhatsApp groups are full, but you keep trying until when a person moves out. But okay, let me change. If the group is full, you keep trying out until when you get space. Is there any other question? Ask if there is any question. If there is no question, I'm going to send these notes. I'm also going to send questions that they can ask you to do with internet and data communication and so on. This group is full. Maybe it can allow, but let me send this group B, just in case you're not in any WhatsApp group and you want to join, and join that one for senior 5. That is a group B, but group A seems to be full. All right, if there is no question, we can end it here.